What do we have? Well, the British government at the time, in 1922, introduced, they drew up a model income tax ordinance, and it's basically a cooperative work between the Colonial Office, the Treasury, and the Inland Revenue Department at the time. And then they had this model which they hoped that many of the governments in the colonies would adopt, and they produced this model income tax ordinance of 1922. So when I was researching it, I just had a look at the ordinance, but what caught my eye was the definition section in section 2. I'm not sure whether you can read. Can you read? Incapacitated person means any infant, married woman, lunatic, idiot, or insane person. So in 1922, married women were classified with the insane, or otherwise thought to be infantile. Well, what do we have in 1947? We have our income tax in 1947, and the Hisman report actually proposed a bill, an income tax ordinance bill, and I had a look at the Hisman report, and I look at the definition. Didn't change very much, It still says incapacitated person means any infant, married woman, lunatic, idiot, or insane person. 25 years down the road, still the same definition. But luckily, when he went to the governor, and this is an act of 1947, I noticed that married woman is omitted from the definition of incapacitated person. So that was the introduction of the income tax ordinance in Singapore. What are the conditions of work at the time? Well, I just had a look at the Government Gazette of 1960, not many years after the introduction of the income tax ordinance in Singapore. And those days, the scheme of service were actually gazetted, and you can read it. And in this gazette, you notice the Commissioner of Inland Revenue receives a princely sum of $1,170 per month as his salary. If you go further down, there's a post called examiner and assistant examiner. So those of us who joined maybe in the 70s, 80s, we would have known of this position. But nowadays, you don't hope to attract young graduates into the Inland Revenue by calling them examiners. So they will have a better term. But during those days, we have terms like this: examiner. Examiner is to examine returns. Of course, in England, they call him inspector of taxes, and before that, surveyor of taxes. But those days, terms are pretty plain terms, and I remember there were jobs like called dressers in hospitals. So the dresser actually dresses wounds. And I think last week, there's a job which the president used to have, the medical social worker. He was an almoner. I don't know what's an almoner. I look at dictionary. Almoner means one who administers alms, So those days, jobs are simpler, the title is simpler. So almoner administers alms, dresser dresses wounds, examiner examines returns. There's also a job, inspector of police. I'm not sure what they inspect. So the next post, at a time in 1960, income tax and estate duty and stamp duty all came together, because before 1960, estate duty and the stamp duty were actually administered by the judiciary. The courts actually administered that. But 1960 all came together. And just after the highlighted part, there's a little part which I didn't highlight. In fact, they say the qualities of the tax officer. They say the duties will demand qualities of intelligence, initiative, versatility, and leadership. Very much the case today. Well, the salary of an honors graduate at the time was $465, as you can see from the Gazette. And examinations, those of you, that's now I know when they tell you that, well, if you join later on, you might have to take examinations, so join quickly, And So what are the standards? So during those times, if you join the Inland Revenue, there are certain examinations you take. And it's stated there, intermediate accounts, advanced law. So very much the scenario even up to the early 1990s in the IRD. And this gazette was actually signed by the late Mr. Wong Chui Sen, then Cabinet Secretary. Okay, very quickly, we come back to the present day. What do we see? Well, these days, it seems like fiscal frontiers are fading. You know, we have now the EOI, Exchange of Information, adopted from the Article 26 of the OECD, and not only can you just have 12 treaties, but in fact they're going to be a peer review mechanism where there's some kind of inspection to see whether you comply in spirit and not just by numbers. So because they expect, sometimes people don't do what is expected, but they will do what is inspected. And in fact later this year, I think we're going to have a global forum in Singapore, and this opportunity, perhaps maybe SEAP members can also get involved. So the next step, would it be the adoption of Article 27 to assist in the collection of taxes? So would actually global forum be a global farm? Yeah. I'm not sure, you know, I don't think so, because we have got, of course, for a long time, you know, the common law world, they would not enforce a tax of a different country. In fact, we have this case, Privy Council case, or House of Lords case, Governor India and Taylor, where the House of Lords say, well, we don't sit to collect somebody else's country's taxes. And even in Singapore, we have quite adopted, we have got a couple of cases where we accepted that principle. But I think things only move when the US decided that they want, you know, to want to move. So I don't think the US will want people to start claiming their taxes in the US court. So I think there will be a slow adoption of Article 27. Okay, that's the heavy stuff. Before I conclude, I thought, you know, the tax profession, in fact, have got these lighter moments, so I thought maybe I share with you a couple of letters which the UK HMRC, the Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, received from taxpayers. So there's one letter, actually it's triggered by the Inland Revenue writing to the taxpayer, enclosing the NOA, the Notice of Assessment. The Inland Revenue say, well, enclosed is NOA, you have 30 days to object to the same. Of course, when we say same, I think we refer to the notice assessment. Sometimes we use language like that. So sure enough, the taxpayer objected, and he said, please correct this assessment. I have not worked for the past 3 months as I have broken my leg, hoping you will do the same. The next letter, of course, after the notice assessment, you're going to proceed to collect the tax. So we say, okay, enclosed is a notice assessment, please pay the tax within 30 days, notwithstanding any objection. Then this married woman replied, perhaps in not very good English, and she said, I cannot pay the full amount at the moment as my husband is in hospital. As soon as I can, I will send on the remains. So the tax profession is a fun profession. Please enjoy yourself. Thank you.